Okay, so let's go to chapter 9. Last week, we talked about this. PPE, we have to do depreciation, right? So on your page 53, for depreciation, 折旧, why? When you used your PPE, your PPE's value ability decrease, right? When your PPE's value ability decrease, then we have to do depreciation, 提折旧, to tell users, investors, my PPE's value ability decrease. Why? After I use it, okay? So for depreciation, what's the target? What kind of PPE we need to do depreciation? Land improvement, buildings, equipment. Only one PPE we don't need to do. We don't need to do depreciation. What's that? Land. Why? For land, even though you use it, the land's value will not be decreased. Maybe increase, maybe decrease because of other major reasons. Okay? When we have to do that, before we prepare financial statements, we have to tell investors, users, shareholders our PP's value. So that's why at the end of each period, before we prepare financial statements, we have to do depreciation. Okay? How? So what's the journal entry? Debit, depreciation expense. Credit, accumulated depreciation. Okay? Why? Because when I used my PP, your PP's value decreased, right? So accumulated depreciation tell you your PP's value decrease. At the same time, your expenses increase. So debit depreciation expense, credit accumulated depreciation. Okay? What's the next thing we have to do? Numbers. I used my PP, so PP's value decreased. Decrease how much? I know decrease 1 year, but 1 year how much? So you have to calculate the numbers by yourself. Okay? How many methods we have? Last week we mentioned the first method. So anyone remember? We have 3 methods. Try to get the number. Anyone? You are Ben. Yeah, Ben. Yeah. Straight line method. Unit of activity method. Decline balance method on your page 62. So page 62, straight line method, 直线法. When you are the old guy. So since you are the old guy, how you use yourself? What's your life? The same. So how you make your ability value decrease? The same. So each year we will get the same amount of depreciation expense. Okay? Second method, party guy. So what does it mean? Party guy. We are still young, right? So we don't need to sleep. We go to classroom in the morning, go to the party at night. So you use yourself as much as you can. So that's why your ability, your value will be decrease more. Okay? So that's why it's like this. First year, since you are young, so you will use yourself more. Since you use yourself more, means what? Your value will be decreased higher, right? Value decreased higher means what? Expenses increase higher. Okay? So that's the second method. We will talk about it today. Last method is the crazy guy. So what does it mean? We don't know how the crazy guy live, right? So we don't have the patent. Maybe today the crazy guy show up to use himself. Maybe next day he's gone. So you don't know where it is. You don't know how he lived his life. Okay? So no patent. So since no patent, each year will not be the same. So there's a crazy guy. Then we use the third method, unit of activity method, 活动量法. Okay? We've done the first one already. So first one should be the most simple one. Why? Because each year you have the same amount. Because you live the same, the daily life always the same. Okay? So we talk about that on your slide 65. So depreciation expense should be the same each year. And we base on the time, right? So how to get your depreciation expense? Using straight line method. Cost minus residual value divided by how many years you are going to use your PP, right? So we will get same amount depreciation expense for each year. So you practice it last week on your page 19, right? So you can look at your note on page 19. Yeah, page 19. Did you find out? You will have same amount. So you can look at your note on page 19. Did you find out? You will have a depreciation expense always the same. Why? Because straight line method, you are the old guy. Since you are the old guy, how you use your PP always the same for each year. Okay? So this is a straight line method, same amount each year. Accumulated depreciation, no problem, right? You just add up the numbers. So accumulated, you just add up the numbers. So first year, that's for 1 year, right? So for 1 year number. Second year, that's for 2 years. Third year, that's for 3 years numbers. 4 years numbers. And 5 years numbers. Okay? Because that's accumulated. Last thing, after you've done these tables, this table you can look at it like what? Excel. So if you know how to use Excel, you just set up the formula. Since you set up the formula for the first year, then you will get all the numbers for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. So the table is like a Excel. So when you try to get the numbers using Excel, okay? After you've done this table, how to double check you did the right thing or not? Last year, this number should be your residual value. Why? Because that's our expectation. What's our expectation? We expect to use PP 5 years. After 5 years, we expect after 5 years, PP's value should be residual value. Okay? So how to double check it? The book value on the last year always should be your residual value. Remember what's the residual value? Residual value is your PPE's value on the last day, right? So that's why. That's how we double check whether you did the right thing or not. So no matter which method you use, always this should be residual value is your book value on the last day. Right? So don't forget, that's how we double check whether you did the right thing or not. Okay, any questions from last week? No problem? Okay. So based on this, another one I want to ask to tell you is, from the question we have, last week, we purchased our PP on which date? January 1st, 2020, right? So we purchased our PP on first date. But, for real world, most of transactions we did always will not be on the first date, right? Today, the second January 10th, I go to buy my laptop. April 1st, I go to buy my bicycle. So usually, most of cases, transactions we've done will not be on the first day. Okay? So here, I want to tell you for the real world, if you purchase your PPE not on first date, so it's not January 1st. Okay? You should be very careful which date you did the transaction. So since you purchased it on April 1st, okay? So for the first year, December 31st, 2020, when we are going to prepare our financial statements. So for 2020, you are going to prepare financial statement. Okay? Could you tell me, you use your PPE how long? Not 1 year, right? So you should be very careful how long you use your PPE. For 2020, since April 1st to December 31st, you just use it for 9 months. So you should be careful how long you use it. I just use my PPE for 9 months. Okay? So that's why you cannot record $2,400 because $2,400 that's for 1 year. So should be very careful about the time. Okay? Others for the whole year, no problem. But first year should be very careful, and also last year should be very careful because after 5 years will be April 1st, 2025. So April 1st, 2025, that's only for 3 months in 2025, right? So we're not going to prepare financial statement. You should understand only 3 months for year 2025. Okay? Any questions? If you don't have any questions, please practice on your page 20. Page 20, we have a one table. This table told you you purchased your PPE on April 1st. So should be very careful about the time. Time is very important. So on page 20, did you find out which is your purchase day? Your purchase day is April 1st. April 1st. Which is your last day? April 1st, 2025. So calculate the numbers by yourself. If you're done, you can double check the answers right here. So should be careful what? For the time, you should know. For 2020, you just use your PPE for how long? For 9 months. So you should be careful for only 9 months. For last year, you use your PPE for how long? For only 3 months. Okay? Any questions? How could you make sure you did the right thing? Don't forget, double check. Last year, last date, your book value should be residual value. Okay? Any questions? No problem? Okay, so let's straight line method. If you don't have any questions, we will go to the second method. Second method, you want to be crazy guy or party guy? We go to crazy guy first. So crazy guy, which method we are going to use? Unit of activity method. Hi, Sandy, are you done already? Yes. Okay, so let's go to crazy guy on your page 73. Page 73. Since you are crazy guy, what's your expectation? Depreciation expense will not be the same each year. Also, depreciation expense, no pattern. So this year, higher or lower? I don't know. Next year, higher or lower? I don't know. I have no idea because you are the crazy guy, okay? So my expectation is, I know they don't have a pattern, so no pattern. I don't know what's going on in the future. I don't know. Okay, so sometimes unit activity methods, they will call it unit product method or activity method. Actually, they are the same. So you should understand, sometimes they will call it different name, but means the same. Unit activity method or activity method, actually, they are the same. Activity method. Or unit production method, they are the same. Okay. How to get your depreciation expense? Depreciation expense 折旧费用. Remember, we use that to describe how you use your PPE. So depreciation expense 折旧费用 describe how you use your PPE. So that's a crazy guy. How we use our PPE? No pattern. So I don't know. So vary depends on how you use it. So how many units we use it, okay? So we don't have any patterns. That's why varies 变化不同. Okay? So there's a concept right here. So how to get the numbers? Since they don't have the patterns for each year, so we have two steps. First step, try to get depreciation expense for each unit. Maybe 2020 I use 10 unit. Maybe next year I use 5 units. So how many units, how many machine hours I'm going to use for each year will not be the same. But each hour, each unit should be the same. That's why we try to get depreciation expense per unit. Okay? So each unit should be the same. So I try to get per unit, maybe per machine hour. Okay. Or maybe per mile. Okay? So they should be the same. So how? Actually, the same as straight line method. The same means cost minus residual value. Cost minus residual value means what? Cost minus residual value means what? Total value decrease, right? Remember that? Cost minus residual value means your total value decrease. And for the total value decrease, because what? Because how many units you use it, right? So the difference, not years. Right now, step one, the difference is we use total unit. How many machine hours, how many miles we used, okay? So divided by total unit, not years, okay? So there's a total unit you used. So after that, you will get depreciation expense per unit. Since I know per unit, but the problem is we have to know each year, right? Because when we are going to prepare financial statements, we want to know whole year situation. So that's why we have a step 2. So what's a step 2? We want to know the whole year situation. So you have 2 times what? Per unit times how many units you used for the year. So we use depreciation expense per unit from your step 1. So this is from your step 1. I know per unit, so I'm going to times unit you used. So total unit for this year used for this year. Okay? So based on these 2 steps, I will note the numbers for this year. Any questions? So each year will not be the same. Why? Because each year I use the different units, right? So since I use different units, of course, each year I will get different amounts. Okay? So that's a second method. So step 1, find out depreciation expense per unit. Then based on that, I will times how many units I use this year. Okay? So the same case, cost $13,000, residual value $1,000. We have a useful life, 2 useful life, right? So these 2 useful life could be years, could be miles. Miles means unit. Depends on which method you use. Okay? First method, straight line method, 直线法, we base on years. Second method, crazy guy, we want to note how many units you are going to use, right? So we base on unit. So there's 100,000 miles is the total unit we expect to use. Okay? Based on this, step 1, cost minus residual value, which means my total value decrease $12,000, right? So based on this, I know total value decrease $12,000 for 5 years for 100,000 miles. Okay? So that's why we divided by our useful life based on unit. Total unit we are going to use 100,000 miles. So based on this, I know per unit is $0.12. Okay? So after I got 0.12 per unit, I know what does it mean. What does it mean? You got this number. What does it mean? Every mile I drove my car, then the value of the car decrease $0.12. Okay? So that's for per mile. So you should understand the meaning after each number. Okay? Any questions? So after I got depreciation expense per unit, then right now, step 2, we can get the number for each year, right? So here told you, we will give you numbers because these numbers only based on the company situations or our expectation. So we will give you numbers, told you the total unit company use for each year. So there's a unit for each year. Okay? So since I note $0.12 per mile, I know how many miles I expect to use for each year. So could you get depreciation expense for each year? Yes, right? Okay, so please finish. Go to your page 21. Please finish page 21. Please finish page 21. Based on the second method, unit of activity methods. Same question, same question. So you can look at the question on page 19. Page 19, we use the same question, same case. Okay? So same case, same PPE, same car. Then based on the same car, same PPE, when you use different methods, what's the result you'll get? So based on page 19, same PPE, same car. Then when you are going to use the second method because you are the crazy guy, then what's the number we have on your page 21? So please finish page 21. If you're done, take a break because I think still have some classmates need a time. So if down the page 21, you can take a break. Okay? Or you're quite boring, please teach your classmates. Don't just sit there and eat your food. Just kidding.